There's a moment many men know, but rarely talk about. A moment when your mind feels full, your chest feels tight, and your emotions feel like they're backing up inside you, yet on the outside, you look calm, quiet, maybe even completely unaffected. This is emotional shutdown, and it's not laziness, indifference, or a lack of care. It's a collapse, a silent internal power outage where your system goes offline because it's overwhelmed. For men, emotional shutdown often begins long before anyone notices. It starts with a feeling you can't fully explain: heaviness, pressure, confusion. Not anger, not sadness, just too much. So your brain does something it learned a long time ago. It shuts down emotional input to protect you. Inside, it feels like this. You want to speak, but the words don't come. You want to explain, but nothing feels clear. You want to cry, but nothing comes out. You want to stay present, but part of you fades away. It's like someone hit a dimmer switch on your emotions, turning everything down until you're functioning, just barely, but not feeling. Outside, it looks very different. Stillness, silence, blank expressions, one-word answers. A man who seems fine. This is where misunderstanding happens. People misread emotional shutdown as coldness. Partners think you don't care. Friends think you're distant. Family think you're avoiding them. But the truth is the opposite. You care so much, you get overwhelmed by the weight of it. Most men were never taught how to process emotions. They were taught how to manage them quietly, to stay steady, to stay logical, to stay strong. So men don't explode, they implode. Internally, you're fighting a storm no one else can see. Externally, you look like the calmest person in the room. And because men rarely show emotional overwhelm the way others expect, crying, talking, breaking down, the shutdown is mistaken for apathy. But apathy is, I don't feel anything. Emotional shutdown is, I feel too much and I don't know what to do with it. Shutdown can be triggered by many things: a conflict that feels too intense, a responsibility that feels too heavy, a conversation that hits too deep, a fear of disappointing someone you love, or even the pressure of trying to appear strong when you're falling apart inside. When emotional shutdown happens, connection becomes difficult. You're there physically, but emotionally distant. You're listening, but not absorbing. You want to respond, but your mind is numb. It's survival mode, a protective mechanism, a learned response that once kept you safe, but now keeps you misunderstood. In this chapter, understand this: emotional shutdown is not a flaw. It is a sign that your internal world is overloaded, a sign that you've carried too much for too long, a sign that your emotional system needs relief, not judgment, not pressure, not shame. This is the starting point. Understanding the silence, understanding the shutdown, understanding the collapse you never learned to talk about. Emotional shutdown in men doesn't begin in adulthood. It's not something that suddenly appears in a relationship or during a stressful moment. Its roots go much deeper, often all the way back to childhood. To understand why so many men go numb instead of opening up, we have to look at where this pattern started and why it once felt necessary for survival. From a young age, many boys receive the same message, directly or indirectly: don't feel that. Don't cry. Be strong. Shake it off. It sounds harmless, even motivating, but what it actually teaches is emotional self-abandonment. A boy who skins his knee and cries is told to stop. A boy who feels scared is told not to be dramatic. A boy who feels sad is told to toughen up. Slowly, he learns that certain emotions are unacceptable, especially those that reveal vulnerability. And over time, he adapts. Not by becoming stronger, but by becoming quieter. This is where emotional shutdown begins. Some men grew up in homes where emotions simply didn't exist, where everything was logical, practical, or task-focused, and feelings were treated as unnecessary. In those houses, emotional expression wasn't modeled, so boys never learned how to identify, name, or process what they felt. When negative emotions showed up, anger, fear, loneliness, there was no safe outlet, so the only coping strategy was to bury them. Other men grew up with the opposite, environments full of chaos, conflict, or unpredictable reactions. Maybe the household was tense, explosive, or emotionally unstable. In those situations, expressing feelings wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. A boy who expressed sadness might be mocked. A boy who showed fear might be punished. A boy who asked for comfort might be rejected. So he learned something very important about survival. If I don't feel, I can't be hurt. That belief follows him into adulthood, long after the danger is gone. Criticism plays also a major role. Many boys experience emotional wounds through subtle but constant messages. Why are you so sensitive? You're a man. Act like one. No one likes a boy who complains. These statements don't toughen boys, they shame them. They teach them that asking for support is a failure, that emotional needs are weaknesses, and that the safest identity is the quiet, controlled, unbothered version of themselves. And once that identity forms, it becomes automatic. By the time he becomes a man, the emotional suppression that once protected him has turned into emotional isolation. He's no longer consciously choosing to shut down. His nervous system simply doesn't know how to respond any other way. When stress hits, he goes numb. When conflict arises, he withdraws. When love reaches for him, he freezes. What started as childhood survival becomes adult disconnection. And here's the important part. Men don't shut down because they don't care. They shut down because they were trained to survive by disconnecting from their feelings. Childhood conditioning doesn't excuse emotional shutdown, but it explains it. And understanding these early wounds is the first step to healing them. Because once a man recognizes that his numbness isn't who he is, it's who he learned to be, he can finally begin the work of becoming emotionally alive again. From the moment boys start noticing the world outside their home, they're handed a script, an invisible set of rules about what it means to be a man. Be strong, be stoic, be tough, never cry, never complain, never show weakness. It sounds simple, even natural, but underneath, it's a trap. This trap doesn't just discourage emotional expression, it punishes it. Vulnerability becomes dangerous, fear becomes embarrassing, sadness becomes shameful. And over time, men internalize the message, to be accepted, I must disconnect from my emotions. Think about it. How often do men hear these phrases? Man up. Boys don't cry. Grow hair. Don't be soft. These aren't harmless sayings, they're cultural tools of enforcement. Each one reinforces the idea that natural human feelings are weaknesses. And when a man tries to express something sensitive, a fear, a worry, a hurt, he risks judgment, ridicule, or social exclusion. This isn't just anecdotal. Research shows that men consistently report feeling pressure to conform to traditional masculine norms. They learn that emotional openness carries costs, losing respect, being seen as weak, or being disqualified from the social circle of real men. As a result, emotional shutdown isn't just a personal choice, it's a learned survival strategy in a culture that constantly signals, if you feel, you lose. The irony is that the very qualities that make men human, empathy, tenderness, connection, become liabilities under the system. The more men disconnect to fit the mold, the more isolated they become. And the isolation feeds itself. Feeling alone drives more numbness, more suppression, and a deeper fear of being found out. Inside this trap, men often feel a private conflict. They long for closeness, understanding, and authenticity, but the social rules tell them that seeking those things is shameful. So they push down desire for connection in favor of the illusion of strength. Even everyday life reinforces it. Workplaces, sports teams, friend groups, and media celebrate endurance, control, and aggression
while mocking sensitivity. Social approval becomes tied not to emotional truth, but to the ability to appear unaffected. This is why so many men are numb by adulthood. They're not naturally unemotional. They've been trained to armor themselves against a world that says emotions are dangerous. Every joke that dismisses feelings, every man-up lecture, every avoided conversation chips away at the capacity to feel safely. And the consequences are not minor. Suppression of emotion under social pressure leads to chronic stress and anxiety, difficulty forming close relationships, emotional outbursts when the pressure finally breaks, feelings of isolation, emptiness, or not being enough. The masculinity trap isn't just a set of external rules, it becomes internalized. Men police themselves, monitoring every feeling and reaction for signs of weakness.